Hi everyone, you reached Chronicles of the Gray Hair Diva, and this is your first time, welcome. If not, welcome back. For all of you out there, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that every time I upload a video, you will be notified. Hit the like button, chat with me in the comments, and when I get an opportunity, I will chat back. And share my video with your friends and family so that they can come to my channel and get to know me also. I'm here today with a quick video on, I'm continuing to read my book. I'm on part 3 of the book, and it's the inside story of the Real Housewives from the people who lived it, Not All Diamonds and Roses, by Dave Quinn. Okay, and so that's the book. Oh, I'm messing up here. Okay, so that's the book. If you can kind of see it there, I got it at my local bookstore, $28.99, and I say up front, it is wholeheartedly definitely worth your money. Now I'm only on part 3, and I'm saying it's worth your money, but I said that for part 1, I said it for part 2, but now that I have read part 3, I'm 100% in. It is again worth your dime. Pay the money for the book, especially if you are a Real Housewives fan. So part 3 is about the Real Housewives of Atlanta. The chapter is called Judge Peachy. It premiered on October 7, 2008. And there's a quote from Cynthia: "There's no fame like Housewives fame." Cynthia Bailey. Okay. So originally the show was supposed to be called Ladies of Hotlanta. And they these ladies didn't know that they were going to be filming for a Real Housewives franchise until later on, and they named the show The Real Housewives of Atlanta. So Nene Leakes was the first person that was even considered for this particular part of the franchise, right? So once they saw Nene, they fell in love with her. They loved her big personality, and they knew, like, you know what, she's the one. And so once they got Nene, they had to go and start finding other people. And I will say this, from the door, Sheree, all of her contributions for this chapter, she is like just spitting fire, spitting fire, spitting fire. I mean, if you love Atlanta, get the book just for this chapter. So Andy said Lenithia Nene Leakes was an instant standout. She was popping with personality, and she kind of anchored the group of friends. And so Nene helped the casting directors, pretty much find the rest of the cast. So Sheree says, Princess, and she was probably the casting, one of the casting people, was looking for a woman who lived a certain life behind the gates, which is why she thought of me. She said Nene wasn't living a lifestyle. I mean, her apartment wasn't even behind the gate, but she kind of takes over. So out the door, this is like page 1 of their chapter for Atlanta. Sheree is just slinging mud, which is so crazy. And Andy says the reason why he wanted Sheree is because she was married to Bob Whitfield, who was a defensive tackle for the Atlanta Falcons, Jacksonville Jaguars, and New York Giants. They were getting divorced when we started, but her lifestyle was highly aspirational. So, he wanted her. So DeShawn came into the picture because of Nene. So her and Nene kind of did real estate together, and she said, when they was looking for more people, Nene recommended DeShawn, and they pretty much, fell in love with DeShawn because, she was married to a basketball player. She had these kids. She had a foundation. They was into the lifestyle, so they thought she would be a good fit. So Sheree, because like I said, this whole chapter, she was just throwing smoke in the game. She said, none of us knew DeShawn, but Nene was searching around for people and found her. She was sweet but quiet. She didn't really say a whole damn lot the whole show. And I will say this, DeShawn knew that her personality, not during it, but after the fact, because remember, this is her first reality show, and it's no playbook for this. So she knew afterwards, like after she's seen everything played out, that she wasn't a good fit for the show. She said, because, I'm boring. My life is boring. And, pretty much that's not what the show is about. So DeShawn said, my ex-husband, Eric, and I love the Real Housewives of Orange County. So when the offer came to do a reality show, even before it was called The Housewives, we were excited. Our kids were young, Eric had been playing basketball. I had a foundation helping teenage girl. We were already in the limelight because of Eric. So this was her chance to kind of step outside of her husband and, do her own thing. So DeShawn was really excited about doing the show. Sheree said the other person Nene pulled in was Kim Zolciak, and she said, Andy was initially confused about Kim. He didn't think she was going to be a good fit, but he later on admits that she was an excellent fit in an integral part of the show. But when he first saw her in the whole big wigs on this, white woman, he was like, I don't know how she's going to blend in with the other girls. But as he stated, she became a big part of the show. So, Andy said, Kim was someone who really confused me. I didn't understand her role within the group, not just because she was white, but because she looked like a country singer with a big blonde wig. She didn't look like she was living the upscale lifestyle like the rest of the women were. So Sheree told us pretty much how Kim got on the show, and she said that her, Nene, and Princess, the casting director, was in a restaurant together having dinner, and Princess asked Nene, like, do you know anybody else? Who else can we get to do this show? And then Kim happened to be in the same restaurant at that day, and destiny, meant to be, whatever you want to call it. And she said, and Sheree said Kim and Nene were not even talking at the time. But Nene said, if you want somebody, you want that girl, then that white bee over there, she's the one. And she was talking about Kim. And that's how Kim pretty much ended up on the show. And so Kim, another producer said, Nene and Kim really stood out. Nobody has seen these two before on television. Nobody's seen like a friendship like theirs. And she, their friendship was remarkable. And I will say this, when Nene and Kim were good, they were good. But, typical Nene, once you go bad with her, you go bad. And it goes really bad. It's like one extreme to another. So Sheree said friendship, because she was like, did I not just tell you they weren't friends? They fell out. And so she's saying before the show started, Nene and Kim fell out because there was a original Big Papa. So Kim had a lot of Big Papas in her life apparently. And so Sheree said the original Big Papa and Kim broke up. And he said when they broke up, he made Kim get out of the house that he was paying for her. And so Nene, who was doing real estate, went behind Kim's back, tried to befriend Big Papa so she could get the listing for the house that he was going to sell that Kim used to live in. And they didn't speak after that, and they only started speaking right before the filming of the show. So I mean, just craziness. It's just absolutely crazy. But Andy said, listen, whatever their friendship was or wasn't, they had crazy chemistry. And just like Bethany, I was wrong about Kim. She would end up being a really integral part of the cast, and she definitely was. Her and Nene friendship was, iconic, and then they found Lisa Wool, who was married to Ed Hartwell, and he was a big football player. So they was really trying to pull together again just this cast of ladies that would live in a certain lifestyle. And Lisa Wool, Sheree said, wasn't there in the beginning. She came later. And because they was like, when they was asking around like who's living a big lifestyle, Lisa Wool name had came up. So that's kind of how Lisa Wool got on the show. And it's just, it's just a really good a really good match. So Carlos King, which we all know is a big reality TV executive now, and they talk about how he came into the picture and how he was just a big part of an influential behind the scenes figure. And so Carlo King said he got a call from a friend saying, do you want to be a producer on this show? And at the time, he was really trying to break in. He really wanted to be part of like reality shows. And so he said he jumped at the chance. And right away, when he started the show, they assigned him to be a producer working with Nene. And he said when him and Nene met, they just hit it off right away. And DeShawn said Nene and Carlos were really close. And Carlos says pretty much the same thing. You know, he said when he got to her house, they were like two peas in a pod. And some of his friends would say, like, who's this girl that's acting like you? And he would be like, you know, that's Nene. And Sheree, again, in the book, throwing mud, slinging mud, she said Nene wanted to portray herself as a person she wasn't. She always presented herself as having this big, huge personality, but she said it's a put on. And so Carlos King said, now, just because I was Nene's producer in season 1, doesn't mean I didn't love me some Sheree Whitfield. I was this young gay boy fascinated with Sheree. She was so delicious, so grand, so over the top, but also subtle. You know, she's a badass chick. So although Carlos King was assigned to Nene and he absolutely loved Nene, but he also loves Sheree. So it talks about in this particular chapter how you know, because Sheree, she wasn't one of the ones that did a straight run through on the show. She had some seasons that she was there, seasons that she wasn't. Then she came back as a friend. Then she came back as a full-time housewife. Then she was demoted to a friend again. So one time, you know, Carlos had even left the show because he was starting his own company, and you know, he wanted to leave and do that. And so he was starting that, and he left for a little bit, and then they was like, listen, the show needs you. The show is not doing the same without you. And he said, I will come back, but you have to bring Sheree back also, because he absolutely loved her. And that's how Sheree came back to the show. But when Sheree came back, and she did good for one season, then they tried to demote her to a friend again. That's when she said that, you know, she wasn't gonna do it, because she's like, listen, do you want me or not? Like, I did not prove myself already. I was a housewife, I wasn't a housewife, and then now you want me to be a friend again. So, you know, Sheree didn't want to go for that. So that's why Sheree finally, I guess, just didn't come back. But now we see yet again, she will be back for an upcoming season. So that was good stuff that they talk about there. And then they said before the show started, there was kind of like bad blood between Nene and Sheree. So Nene and Sheree just never got along. And Sheree said they were never really friends like that. I guess, you know, people play around with this word friend, acquaintances, or like, I just know the person. But Sheree was always a socialite, I guess, is from what Sheree seems like she's saying. And she would always get Nene, because she didn't know Nene. She will always get Nene into these different parties, and you know, that's how their kind of what their relationship was. And so Nene, you know, the infamous scene where I believe it was season 1, where Sheree has this birthday party and Nene gets there and Nene's name is not on the security list. They said Nene went ballistic, and her and Sheree could never repair their relationship after that. Nene felt like the show knew, the production knew, and this was being done to her on purpose. And Nene was like, this is my show, like, I'm not on the list, this is crazy. And even when they came out and, you know, tried to clear up the mistake about Nene not being on, you know, on the list, Nene wasn't going for it. It was a done deal for her. She was pissed. And, you know, Sheree said, you know, Sheree kind of played into this whole thing, but it never sat well with Nene, and they never got back on good terms. So it was just absolutely insane. And they said for this event, when they went to pick up Kim had a dress that needed to be fixed and some alterations. So they met the designer at a gas station, and they said Kim stripped down butt naked, and Carlos King was like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. She stripped down butt naked so this designer can fix her dress so that they can go off to the birthday party that Nene couldn't get access to and get in. It's good. It's really cool, good stuff, guys. I'm putting on my glasses so I can see more in this book. And Carlos King said, now did Sheree do that on purpose, meaning not have Nene's name on the list? He said that will always be an urban legend. He said, who knows? So you never know. And then Sheree said, I don't know how it happened. I gave them the list and she was supposed to be on it. I guess she didn't make the cut. So, you know, Sheree, again, she's just being messy and throwing shade. And then they said here, Sheree's birthday party was just one of those memorable parties she threw in season 1. She ended the season by throwing a party to debut her clothing collection, She by Sheree. And then they go, well, sort of. So Sheree talks about how before the show started, she had a clothing boutique. And, she talked about, a lot of celebrities support her, but it was kind of rough. And, she had to end up closing the store because it takes a lot to run a store with inventory and so forth and so on. And so she said when the show started, it was like she wanted to have something. So, she said, let me do She by Sheree, which Andy said, he always hears. And she said the fans always are saying, like, what's up with She by Sheree? And Andy said he's still hoping something comes to fruition with She by Sheree. And so they said another iconic moment is when Dwight had said it's a fashion show with no fashion. And they didn't write this piece and the other part in the book that I'm about to say. And then he said how dreadful. I mean, that was my favorite part that came out of his mouth. It's like, a fashion show with no fashion. How dreadful. So Sheree says, I could have had fashion there, but it wasn't ready. And, she tries to explain it all. But that was, to me, another iconic scene for the Housewives, the Real Housewives of Atlanta. It's like you're having a fashion show with no fashion. Like, how insanely crazy is that? Okay. So Carlos King says she kept pursuing it, bless her heart, and that's what I love about her. She's determined. And Andy said it's like Sonia's toaster oven. I'm still hoping one day to see Sheree dressed in She by Sheree. I have possibly spent more time talking about She by Sheree than Sheree herself. This is the brand with a major name recognition, by the way. Sheree said Andy asks me all the time, and fans to this day still come up to me and say I want She by Sheree. And then, so meanwhile, they said Sheree and Kim grew closer and Nene and Kim fell out. It is just, so sad to see like what happened between Nene and Kim, because it seemed like at first, the kids were very close to Nene, Kim's kids, and, they looked at Nene as an aunt, and we kind of saw all of that play out on TV, only for them to end up falling out and just having like this nasty, blowout fight. So Sheree said Nene always had a problem with that friendship because she introduced us, but we had more in common with each other than we did with Nene. Like, Kim's a fun person to be around. It's a jealousy thing. Nene felt she brought Kim on, but mind you, before the show, they had not spoken in years. So she keeps bringing that up, and so that's what's sad. And then Andy talks about how Nene feels like she invented the reunion show. But he said, of course, he did reunions before that with Orange County in New York. And he said, but after, and they were still, the reunion show for the Real Housewives of Atlanta season 1 wasn't picked up yet. But Nene kept calling him because she had things she wanted to settle with the girls. Because what happens is they film for 4 months. And then they have to do their confessionals. So things happen while they're filming, but they don't know the mess that people are talking about them until they see the show themselves with the confessionals. So then they get pissed all over again. And so then, the reunion is the time to confront these people about what they said. So they said it's like, it's so messy. It's like it happens in real time. You're mad. Then you get over it. Then you see the confessionals and you're mad again. And then you kind of get over it. But then you have to go to reunion and it's brought back up again. So it's like a situation happens and you can never really let it go, because it's like relives itself and revives itself like over and over again. So, Nene kept harassing him like, we have to have a reunion because I have stuff I need to get off my mind with people. And so Andy was like, they did the reunion. And so he said, DeShawn said, so Kim had been saying things in her confessionals that Nene really wanted to address. So Nene pushed for that reunion. She had a bone to pick, okay? And Sheree said Nene always has a problem with everybody. And so Carlos King said that reunion where Nene said to Kim, that's the reunion where Nene said to Kim, close your legs to marry man. So she came there, she was ready, she was pissed because Kim was saying such mess about her, during her confessionals. And he said, And because Kim was dating Big Papa at the time, which, by the way, we all wanted to know who Big Papa was behind the scenes. We were all very curious. So DeShawn Snow said, we all knew who Big Papa really was. Kim just had to give him that name to protect his identity because he was legally married and going through a divorce. And then Carlos King said he got the chance to meet him, and it was shocking because you hear the name Big Papa. You think you're going to meet someone like Notorious Big, right? He said, well, he's the total opposite. He's the tiniest man. He didn't look like a person we thought he would be. And so Sheree said, we actually filmed at my house with Big Papa, but it got cut. It was an episode where I was sick and Kim came over with Big Papa and brought me some medicine. She said he's actually really a cool and fun guy. And then Andy said, I met him at one of the reunions, season 2 maybe. I couldn't believe he was there in the flesh. After all that buildup, it was a little bit of a letdown. He was a little fella. So they so messy talking about Big Papa was little. But, at least they did actually meet him and, he was a real person. And so Sheree said that Kim was not going to let you walk her over. She sticks up for herself. She keeps it real and she tells it like it is. And so Andy said Nene low-key was starting to lunge at Kim. I was really nervous. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't feel in control on any level, and I didn't know what kind of TV was going to what kind of TV this was going to make. And so she said that reunion, it was kind of like a Kim and Nene show, right? But that reunion, they said it aired the night before Thanksgiving, and they said it got 3 million views, okay? 3 million views. And Andy said Jim Sucker, the CEO of NBC Universal, emailed him and the next morning it was like, wow, nice numbers, congratulations. And Andy said he was like, whoa. So the show did very good ratings also, but the reunion really sealed the deal for Atlanta, and it was a hit. And it went on to be, they said, the highest rating of all the cities in the Housewives franchise, all while all 5 of the Atlanta housewives were thrust into the spotlight, and then Nene, pretty much became a star. So Carlos King, once he saw everything, he said he told Nene, you're going to be a huge star. She didn't believe him. She was like, shut up, bitch. No, I'm not, girl. Sure enough, he said he saw her during Thanksgiving holiday while the show was airing. And she said, remember when you told me I was going to be a huge star? And she said, bitch, you were right. So, and they said pretty much all of them said that they knew Nene was going to do very well. And they also said, no matter how any one of them, the housewives that spoke in this chapter, when they talk about Nene, even if they didn't love her, they all give Nene credit for being the foundation of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And, they said when you think Real Housewives of Atlanta, you think Nene. So none of them really shaded her when it came to that. And Sheree, like I said, she always had something to say. And she said, Nene would do anything to be famous. And she said, and DeShawn said, listen, we were all given the same opportunities, but, Nene made the best of it. And, that's all that matters. So, and they said DeShawn knows all too well, as producers plan for season 2, the network decided that she wouldn't be returning. And she wasn't upset about it. Like, she knew it, right? So she said the biggest misconception about me was that I left. I would have come back for a season 2, but my option wasn't picked up. Andy did say, he wished that they gave her a second chance, because sometimes people need another opportunity to kind of show more of themselves, but the people felt she was boring, so they let her go. Sheree, of course, said she wasn't surprised. And that's when in came to replace DeShawn. That's when we got Kandi Burruss, okay? And a lot of people were saying, Kandi, why are you doing this show? It puts black women in a bad light. And Kandi was like, well, that's the perfect opportunity for me to get on there and show something different. Sheree knew Kandi because she said, Kandi used to date one of her ex-husband teammates, okay? And she said, I always like, Candy's music and thought she was a good addition to the show. Candy said it was rough when she first came because if you remember, she was engaged to AJ and he died. So like that was a lot to go through. And Sheree said that was shocking. And Candy was like, I had to go through this like on a large platform. Okay. And so she said when she met Kim, she thought she was really cool, but her and Kim fell out over tardy for the party. And she said because they made the deal with a handshake, and then once Kim started, I guess, seeing the money that was coming in, she was like, why do I need to split it with you 50-50? And Candy pretty much said, I really felt if we did a contract, me and Kim would have still been friends to this day. But she was like, it is what it is. And that's why they fell out. She said we did a friendly handshake. She said, well, when the song came out, Kim was saying she shouldn't have to split it with us equally. Instead, she wanted to only give us writers royalty. It was like, now you want to change the agreement? Fine, let's play that way. So that's, was the issues between her and Candy. And then again, Nene and Kim fell out about this because at first Nene and Kim was supposed to do, Nene and Kim was supposed to do the that song together, and that didn't work out. So that was a whole nother disaster between them. And this is the season 2 is when we get that epic explosive filled argument with Sheree and her party planner, and where he pretty much, she was like, he said something about checking her, and she was like, who gonna check me, boo? I mean, that was iconic that season. And I think that's why Atlanta worked so well, because they just had some things that happened that was just huge moments, like in the franchise history. So I'm trying to think here, what else are we going to talk about? The arguments between Kim, Carlos King said the arguments between Kim and Nene were always next level. On season 2, they went back and forth, fighting and making up. And then there was an incident that happened off camera where Nene allegedly choked him in a Target parking lot. Crazy. And then remember, Sheree was tugging, Kim's, wig. It was just so messy. But they said once Kim met her husband, Croy, Kim just felt like, she just kind of was metamorphosing, like transitioning into being a different person. And that's when she kind of was like, this show isn't for her. Cynthia talked about her and Peter and how they literally just not have the money for the wedding. She said Bravo gave them $15,000 towards their wedding, but it was only so that the lighting and stuff like that would be good, so that when they film it, that would be fine. And she said they had to pay their party planner in installments. It was like crazy. And she said it was to the point where it was so embarrassing. She was asking them, well, can you cut out the salad? Can we not have this, in order for her to be able to afford the wedding? I'm just like, good me, oh my, y'all should have just went to the courthouse and had a big dinner. Marlo came on as a friend. She said, I auditioned for a full-time housewife. They came to my house and filmed a scene between me and my mother, but my family was too loving hip-hop for Bravo's brand. My mother was eating out of the refrigerator, yelling and cursing and drinking Coke 45. So my truth was not what they wanted. It was not their truth. And so, Marlo, it took a while for Marlo to actually, get on the show. And they just talked about why, they wasn't ready to give her a peach. But now we know in real time, Marlo, after all of these years, finally got her peach. They talked about the bad scene that happened at the reunion between Kenya and what is her name? And Portia. And they really felt that Portia just blacked out and really did not mean it. And Kenya said she was very surprised because going into the reunion, her and Portia had no issues. But since Portia was just in a bad way that year, like her marriage had fell apart, she had so much going on. They said, Portia just wasn't in a good headspace. And that's why they think it was so bad you know, would happen to, you know, between her and Kenya at that particular reunion. And then the next season, they talk about how Cynthia and and Portia got into it. Like Cynthia was on a boat and had to, you know, push away. Cynthia thought she was gonna get fired, but they said they looked at the tape, they understood how Cynthia had to defend herself, and you know, they said, you know, Portia had to go to anger management classes because they wanted to make sure that everyone knew, like, they wasn't condoning this behavior, but they really liked Portia, so they kind of wanted her to stay on the show, and they wasn't going to kick Cynthia off because they didn't feel like, you know, she was being malicious. They felt like she was really just defending herself. So that was interesting. Cynthia said Kim can be disrespectful as hell, that's for sure, and we all felt that because she was white, she wasn't held to the same standard as we were. Kim got a pass on stuff. She would show up late to a scene, eating McDonald's. They would tell her that she couldn't eat it while filming, and she'd say F you and just eat it while filming anyway. And then we would get up, and then she would get up and leave whenever she want. Like if I did that, I wouldn't be on the show. So they did say that they felt like Kim got privileges that some of the rest of them was not afforded and, you know, didn't get. You know, when Kenya Moore came on, you know, they talk about Kenya and how Kenya and Nene just kind of didn't get along. They talk about that whole scene where, you know, Cynthia said that the real fallout between her and Nene is because that season where Kenya was off, and they said the season where Kenya was off, the reason what pissed them off with Kenya is that she, you know, the whole time she was looking for love, wanting to have that baby, wanting to get married. And then when she found it, she sneaks off and get married and didn't tell them. So they was like, you know what, go have your baby, go live your life, but you won't be on our show. So she wasn't on that show one season, but then she was pregnant with the beautiful Brooklyn, and she shows up at the very end of the season at Cynthia's engagement party. And then, you know, Cynthia what was I going to say about Cynthia? Cynthia claimed she didn't know what Kenya was coming. Nene was pissed at her, and then her and Nene fell out, and it was like, you know, that was the end of Cynthia and Nene. They never got right after that. So there was a time where Portia became like a friend of the show, and, you know, she had her bout where she was a friend of the show. They talked about kind of like why Claudia didn't really work. And, you know, again, Claudia wasn't kind of really given a real chance either. But, you know, that's how it kind of goes on these shows. But it's a good chapter. It's full of really great stuff. It talks about, you know, the falling out between Candy and Phaedra, which was very sad. And Phaedra, they said, tried to blame, you know, Carlos King for telling her the information about Candy. He had already left the show by that time, but he was pissed when he heard it, and he said he absolutely did not get Phaedra that information, and also said that Phaedra was even saying throughout the show that particular season that she heard this information that she told Portia from Candy herself. She said, Candy told me. So it was just so messy, but this particular chapter in the book, part 3, just peachy. You gotta read it, full of great information and good stuff. I loved it. I'm loving the book. $28.99, people, if you get the hardcover copy. Like I said, you know, they have a Kindle version, and I'm sure maybe they have an Audible version. I don't know, but I love it. Get the book. Chat with me in the comments. Let me know if you're reading the book. Did you get to read this chapter yet? Do you love it? Did you like it? Do you believe the stuff that's in it? Chat with me in the comments. Hit the like button. And when I get an opportunity, I will chat back. See you in the next video.